substance abuse, human trafficking, other social risks. When opportunities disappear, institutional education is one of the strongest factors to end society. Thirdly, perhaps most critically, there is the connection between education, institution, and national risks. A growing population of disengaged and disadvantaged youth can create fertile grounds for insecurity, instability, and social tension. Sustainable peace and national development thrive from its opportunity. Beyond the challenge of access, must also confront the issue of safety. Before I proceed further, let us pause. School children and teachers who are abducted in Oyo State, if their ordeal is painful. Children in Nigeria not only face barriers to education, but also there is a threat to their safety while pursuing education. Today, this morning, our thoughts and prayers remain with these affected children, their families, and their communities. High Foundation call upon government and all relevant institutions to do everything in their power to secure the safe and immediate release of these children and their teachers. We also urge policymakers at all levels to strengthen measures that enhance school safety across the country so that every child can learn in an environment free from fear, violence, and insecurity. No nation can successfully close the education gap if children and parents are afraid of what happens to their children when they go to school. Ladies and gentlemen, while the scale of the challenge is significant, so too is our collective capacity to address it. Governments alone cannot solve the problem, neither can schools, community, civil organizations, development partners, or private sector act independently. The solution requires collaboration, innovation, investment, sustained commitment from all stakeholders that is represented in this room today. This summit this morning provides us an opportunity to move beyond identifying problems boldly and think beyond the traditional boundaries. Let us use this platform to inspire action that will outlive this gathering and create meaningful change in the lives of the
Used to, but that's the strong. Just it's okay. If you come back, just change them. Now use your earpiece. Hello. I think this one is taking from
This one is taken from desktop.
yeah, let me change them. And choose. Mm, mhm.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Good morning. Okay. Good morning. Can you hear me? So, can you hear me? Is there noise there? Okay. So we'll go use noise reducer. There's noise reducer on OBS. Cool.
talk any going forward. I would be facilitating this dialogue and support from my board. But I think once the conversation starts going, it will take a life of its own. Um, hello. I don't. I'm just seeing another person at the back. Would like to introduce yourself? No. So let me just first of all welcome the CEO to your Thank you so much. And then we can introduce the team. So as we start. Yeah. So basically, what this is going to happen, what's going to happen here is I'll start with a series of questions, of course. So I'll ask anticipate somebody put their hands up to answer. And if anybody has questions, they can ask. This is an open floor. It's not an official. It's a discussion. Most of us, we are all in this course. And we all have an opinion on what to do. And it is based on the thing of the white paper, the thing just hopefully we all have read. So what's the main talk about? Is education exclusion? Would you consider it a development of the legacy? Great amount of children we are not got 20 million out of school children in Nigeria. UNICEF recently gave the statistic that one in four children that are already in school cannot read or write. Numeracy and literacy. We get statistics. I'm also looking at the demography of Nigeria, where 60% of our population are children minorities. Looking at this, would you consider it a development emergency?
It is but it's not speak actually, because the more of this you have, the more difficult it is to come to any form of development. Education and when we're talking about education, it's a different, well, not, is it formal education or informal education? It's different parts of education, but here let's look at we're talking about as formal education. We are talking about the numbers that we have at the end of school and like education at home. And we already know that we have issue with even education because most of the education that we have like are not certain to be educated. When we have properly educated doesn't mean that you can read. Yes. And the fact that they go to school, they do even the percentage of it. And we have usually we are educated
across board in all our universities in primary schools and secondary schools. Then you now have almost how many percent that are still out of school. And the numbers are increasing because our population is also increasing. So we're not even dealing with the birth issues, the birth rates, because once you start talking about birth rates and adding it with education, you have a double problem. Then when you now talk about economic factors of the families, that's a triple problem. And once that happens, everything else begins to suffer. Not only education, health suffers as well. Family issues, people suffer because the families too cannot take care of the children. Once they cannot do that, the father begins to get frustrated. Then we have domestic issues as well in the homes. So it's very compounded. And then all this security we're talking about as well is also part of the problem. So once education is not dealt with, what happens that your problem now becomes triple, popular people, and then you don't know how to manage it. And then we're going to see the numbers even increasing in the next 5 to 10 years. How do we do that? And that's why this is also very viable. In fact, of course, we know that we have disadvantaged students, human people in the country. How do we help them to even get into schools? Then, by the time we talk about that, what do we do in terms of the schools itself? The schools, our curriculum has a problem, it's outdated, it doesn't make any sense for us to be using that same curriculum for the way the world is now. Even we, as we feel that we're educated, we're already under-educated because the world is going very fast and we are just on a total race. And I mean, AI is here to stay, and we think a lot of the kids don't even know what to do with
understand what is going to be used for, to help them to propagate their economic side of things. How can they use to make money? What can they use? So those are the things that we also have to begin to think about. So they are not looking for other negative ways out. And I mean, if you want me to talk from when they were small to when they grew, including their parents, grandparents, children, siblings, we can won't stop the conversation. It's so important, and everyone, all hands has to be on deck. It's not a one approach. It's not just one-sided. Everybody, and that's why I talked about the schools, the curriculum, the parents working, how they can also manage the children, because both parents are now working. Nobody's at home to take care of the kids. That's another major problem. Again, I know when we were growing up, we used to have families that stayed with us. Nobody stayed with anybody anymore. So the kids are left on their own device, and if they do have this, that's another problem. If they don't have it, is a problem. So we have so many issues, so many issues. And another thing also is that we do have policies. I mean, if you want to ask about educational policies, I mean, the government has. We are one of those countries that policies. If you want policy of anything, even policy of not to carry a bag, we have it. But the major thing is how do we implement those things? And if we're not implementing it, what happens after that? Then of course we are also the approach of the government, federal government, and state government, and local government is also another thing that everyone needs to come to the table. So that when we were talking earlier, we were talking about collaborations and partnerships, which is important, where the private sector, the public sector, and the likes of the NGOs, which are still important, because they've been doing a lot of work in the communities for years. And of course, we know that the issues with the major funders have kind of disappeared. So we need to also look inwards. So if you're talking about what you're doing, if you really wanted to go past where you're doing, and not just one person saying, because I'm a philanthropist, I'll do 10 children, I'll do 10. That can't take you where you want to go. We're talking about what like that kids are talking about. We're talking about 35,000 children. And even that is a problem. Because the 5,000 children does not cover what we need to cover. You know, and that is still one of the best that we have. So we need to now look at it in a more institutional way, more strategic, and say how can we all get involved with this, what do we do different? And the private sector really needs to get involved. Because no matter what they say, what did they do? No matter how much, because I'm hearing all these billions that we're paying off the shares, no matter how much you get, if the country has a problem, every organization in this country will have a problem. Because you cannot be going to work and people are on the streets rioting. It's not going to work. So we all have to find ways to come up with a solution. And those solutions do exist. And this is one of the things we're talking about with your foundation. In terms of sponsoring kids that are disadvantaged, finding ways that we can, even if they don't want to go to the formal side of school, inform what is out there, what is available, but putting all those resources in so that we also even know what's available. That's another thing, because a lot of us do work in silos, and we need to be able to pull our. Sorry, I can go on about education.
Thank you so much. I love your passion. I mean, there's so many key takeaways from that. Yeah, absolutely. The numbers going north in terms of after school children, in terms of the security. And, you know, it's not just the childbirth rate, it's also poverty. We are increasingly becoming the poorest country. And as more people get into poverty, it's going to affect those going to school as well. And yeah, you can't work in silence. That's why we're here. That's why we're having this dialogue. Mrs. Sakere, you wanted to...
I think Osai has touched on every point that I would have wanted to speak to, especially working in silos. But I'll tell you a story, and this is a personal story. I know a young man, who lost his dad, similar to the story the young lady gave earlier. And that young man had started school, doing very well. When he lost his dad, he was in a very good school, right? He got a scholarship. And this scholarship wasn't a scholarship per se, it was just somebody, you know, a private person abroad who was helping out. Now, the young man finished his secondary. He still got scholarship to do the same human being, sponsored him to do his master's abroad, and from there he navigated life, got married, got successful, and that young man happened to be my dad. So you can imagine if he hadn't gotten that intervention, where would I be today? I probably would be by the roadside selling akara or something. But because he got that intervention, it has sort of like, as you know, yes, it has changed generation. So that is where I'm going. When we look at, sponsoring a child out, from the streets, we do not know what we're doing for the generation or for the family in future. So apart from me being here in an official capacity, I'm here because I grateful, for that intervention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Exactly. Good personal stories like this are what motivates, encourages. Thank you so much. Any other
I can quickly make a contribution. So mine is, I think I'll just take us a little bit away from the main topic, not so far away, but just something to help us and guide us in seeking solutions. Because after all, what we're here for, we brought everybody together so that we can seek solutions together. And I just want to make a pitch for vocational studies. I think it's something that we need to look at in terms of policy and mindset shift. Everybody wants to be a graduate. Everybody wants to be a professional. When you ask the average Nigerian child, what do you want to be when you grow up? Everybody wants to be a doctor. Everybody wants to be, yeah, I mean, maybe it's shifting a little bit, but creator, influencer, I want to be famous. But traditionally, those things that we looked up to, so we need to also spend some time, maybe in drafting, I mean, ages and ages before our parents' generation, there was city and guilds, and that was well recognized. So even artisans, we've all been at the mercy of the mechanic who's put something funny in our car or whatever else. I think we also need to have a good look at vocational studies. How do we bring those back into the prominence that they can deliver, especially given the rise of AI? So, Meta has laid off, 30,000 people or something like that, because AI is replacing those jobs. Ditto all the other, tech companies, and it's going even into law firms. So all of us here, we can put into Claude and get back in a minute, draft last will and testament for XYZ, and these are my assets, and we'll get something, whereas we would traditionally have paid some kind of lawyer for that. And we're all getting more and more comfortable. I mean, chat with Claude now. No, I don't like what you put. Let's go. Think deep, 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 and everything. And it's like, there's such a wealth of information I can get back. So I just think this is something that I'd like to just add to the conversation. There's loads. Yes, do I think education is a national emergency? 1,000% it is. And is it going to contribute to this gap that we're trying to close? 100% I believe that. So I just think we don't need to focus only on the academics and the classroom. We need to get the best out of each and every child. So that's my contribution.
Thank you. And okay, we have yes, sorry, I'll give it.
Thank you for all your contributions. They are new opportunities for learning. But for me, my own take is this. When we talk about development and we talk about society, we have to revisit our values. Because what we value as a people is being replicated across society. Let me give a typical example. I remember my first visit to the US. In the neighborhood where I was, there's a neighborhood library. I mean, when you talk about library is not just a place where you find books. It's also a place where you can go to learn new skills, to hobnob with people, and to expand your horizon of knowledge. But looking at, so in that wise, what they value in that society, in the US, and I'm sure applicable to the UK, to Europe as well, they value knowledge, they value education, and not necessarily you have to go to school, but the opportunities around you where you can leverage platforms like library and things like that to advance yourself. You know, so, and it's replicated across all counties, everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, there's a library, there's a public library. But coming back home, as big as Lekki Phase 1 is, I can't think there's any public library there. As highbrow as Ikoyi is, no public library. So, what do we value as a people? What are the things that we say, okay, this is what defines us? If we are not able to interpret our values to reflect in our environment, even the way we build, the way environments are being built, or urban planning, you know, it's not necessarily all about new housing projects and stuff like that. There are ways you can do environments in a way that seeking knowledge becomes something exciting. Walk into any typical American or British university, you will want to learn. You will want to learn. Or even a public school, you will want to learn. But coming back home, let's not go there. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell, if we are going to talk about development, we must re-examine our values. What do we value as a people? And begin to work from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do have an important question to this one.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Just to lay a foundation so you understand where I'm coming from. So I lead the thematic group for out-of-school children for the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NEASG, and I'm also the executive director of Seed Care and Support Foundation. I want us to reflect on certain things, not just to be risks, trying to correct numbers, but it's good for us to think first at the foundation, which is the what we normally call the UNICEF data, 18.3 or 20 million out-of-school children. As a person and an individual that has worked in the education sector, I think the first thing is, are we working with the right data? And why do we say that? It's important that we work with the right data so that we can target interventions and we know what we're doing, even as a pool. At the NESG, we don't work on interventions, we work on policy and ensuring that policy is implemented and to ensure that we gather people so that we don't work in silos. But the first thing we see as a place of action is even what are we really working on? And I'll give an example. So you mentioned at the beginning that you work in Makoko. Now, in Makoko, you have a lot of schools on the water. But I can tell you for free that these schools don't exist in the government database. That's because when the annual school census is done, we have the NEMIS, SEMIS, and LEMIS. That's the National Education Management Information System, the State Information Management System, and the local government. Now, when the annual school census is done, most states only count schools that are approved and schools that they can see. I can tell you for free that in the Lagos database, not all schools in Makoko are counted. So technically, when UNICEF is calculating that data, they are working with existing data that is given to them. So I can tell you that in Lagos State, over 15,000 schools are not counted. And the children that are in there are part of the children that we are counting as out of school. And so sometimes our interventions are wrongly targeted. So it's important that we first define what even is a school. And I allude to the TVET. What is a school? What is education? When is a child in education or in learning? We need to add that to it, because if they are learning a trade, if they are doing something else, are they in learning process that we can say they are getting some sort of education? And so it's important we also identify that. And then when we do a lot of estimated based interventions based on estimates or assumptions, It also doesn't allow us to track the progress. So for instance, NEDI, which is the new intervention of the Honorable Minister, which is the National Education Data Infrastructure, the Learner Identification Number, LIN, which is currently being implemented, is supposed to help us track the child from the beginning of education up until university. So that if a child leaves Kaduna and comes to Oyo, the entire continuous assessment of that child follows that child. The child doesn't come and say, I was in primary 6 and tries to enter GS1 when they left primary 2. So you will be able to track when that child is coming. And if a child leaves the system, you would know that the child left the system at a certain time and the child is now maybe 15 or 20 and has not done certain classes, and you know what intervention to do. So it's also important that we support in this data infrastructure, because that is then how we can continue to track our numbers. I can imagine if IA Foundation has supported how many children, 100 and something plus children. What is the trajectory of those children that we have even supported? How are they doing? Where have they gone through the system? If they even move from state to state, can we even track them? You know, where are they going to? So as we do this, it's important, and I wanted to finally highlight the importance of ensuring that we keep government accountable to policy implementation. So we have a lot of policies, like they said. Now, I mentioned certain schools that are not counted. They are called affordable non-state schools. I'm sure we all know them, but we don't know who they are. I mean, we can't really track them. A lot of the schools in Makoko are affordable non-state schools. They are not fully approved, but they are the ones providing education for children in low-income communities. We've done a census. At some point, I worked on an FCDO program called Deepen that we worked on census of these schools. As of today, these schools are about 15,000 in Lagos State alone, compared to about 1,700 public schools. Now, these children house more children. A lot of the times when we do out-of-school interventions, we sometimes even place them in these schools without knowing. So these schools are technically not counted by many states. These schools are not recognized and are not being supported and are not being engaged by government. And the government has developed a policy. So last year, the Honorable Minister launched the policy on non-state schools, the national policy on non-state schools. Now, a policy launched in Abuja sits in Abuja because education is on the concurrent list. If states don't domesticate that policy, it doesn't become anything for us. So, as of today, we're tracking this policy. No state in Nigeria has domesticated the policy. It means that no state has fully recognized all the non-state schools, which are private schools, whether approved or not, for this policy to work for our children. So that's where we're at, and I'm just calling on everyone. At some point, we all need to also not just work on the ground implementation, but also keeping government accountable and ensuring policy implementation, not just policy development, because it is when the policy is being implemented that it gets, the children in the classroom gets the benefits. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, there's data, lack of data, there's even being able to track. And you raised a very interesting point that if a child moves from Lagos to, we had a similar incident a while back where we practically lost track of one of our beneficiaries. And that's one of the things that informed our decision going forward, that how do we keep track of each beneficiary, make sure that they achieve, their trajectory. Thank you very much.
You can move on to the next one.
Okay. Okay. So, yes, very wonderful contribution. So, my next question is I'm actually skipping some questions. I think this would be interesting. If, assuming, we're going to assume that this amount of money I'm going to announce will solve all education crises in Nigeria, and I'll put the figure of 100 million naira. If we had 100 million naira, and that 100 million naira is enough to solve the whole education, where should it go? How should we spend it? We have to think about that. Just give it like a minute or so.
Can you repeat the question?
So, if we had 100 million naira, and that 100 million naira, for the sake of this question, is enough to address the education issues in Nigeria, where should it go? How should we spend it? How would I, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah. Thank you so much, everyone that's contributed. Great contributions. I feel like, me personally, I would say go back to basics. And what do I mean by that? Even the current system is flawed. So the lady mentioned about the curriculum, mentioned about a few other things, right? But my personal view is that we need to look at the quality of the teachers that actually, deploying education or imparting knowledge or anything like that. The reality is that the system is completely broken. Because the gap, there's a huge gap in the science. The whole thing goes beyond poor academic performance. It's actually, when you think about what these people are being taught, then it's no surprise about the quality of students that are being churned out, right? So I would say first and foremost, before we talk about adding more schools, adding this, is first to go to the fundamental thing about the teachers that are teaching our students. What do they know? Where are the knowledge gaps for themselves? So first, when you're training, you have programs such as Train the Trainer. So you first have to train your teachers. Because if you spend money on, well, that's my personal view, if you spend money on bringing in students, it's garbage in, garbage out. Because the teachers themselves, quite frankly, are not qualified in a lot of ways. So that's my personal view. So your teachers, then your curriculum. What's exact? So there's the bit about the teachers that teaching. There's also the bit about the curriculum. What structure has been put in place for teaching the students? A lot of emphasis is laid, even the education system is flawed. The way we teach, I just moved back from England and the gentleman spoke about it. When you're in the Western world, even the way they teach, I'll give you a typical example. A lot of people in my generation hated maths and they hated sciences. There's no problem with maths or sciences, it's the way we were taught. So that's what I'm saying, that the emphasis should be on the quality of being taught and the curriculum. And then once we fix that, and also some of the things we teach are just so archaic. A lot of schools don't even have computers. Somebody was talking about AI. How do you even talk about AI to people that have never seen a computer in their lives? So we need to fix those fundamental issues, put in the structures, the systems and processes. Then we now talk about, okay, the schools, then we now talk about the students. So for me personally, that should be the order. Because otherwise, we're picking children up, absolutely fantastic. We're putting children in schools, absolutely fantastic. But what do you turn out? I've worked with people that are managers and are masters, even their English, they can't even communicate. English is their first language, they can't even speak, they can't write, they can't read. So that's my personal view. Let's go back to basics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do agree with teach the trainer was the quality of education. At the end of the day, it's quality that matters. But I would have to ask a question for you. You say that's the first step. So the gap, because there's a time frame between when you achieve this teacher excellence and what happens to the children in that time?
No, you set order of priority.
No, so where would you go?
Why would you spend it?
How would you spend it?
That's where I would spend it first. I'm not saying that's the only place to spend it, by the way. I didn't say only spend it there because that would be madness. But I'm saying that if you focus on just bringing children in without fixing what they're going to be taught, then there's a disconnect. So fix that, and at the same time, so the next order is bring the children, the next order is whatever else. We have many issues. But my point is that a lot of focus has to be on what they are being taught. I'm not suggesting that's the only thing.
Absolutely.
No, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. So in case you got that was not what I was saying. But I feel like a lot of people would dive to, the children, the this, the date, and it's like, okay.
I think there's an understanding that welcome our patron. Yeah. Good morning, sir. Mr. Femi Falana. Please, a warm welcome for you. Femi is passionate, a strong advocate for education, and is a very, very passionate supporter of the Valley Foundation. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to come. What you want to? I'd like to give the mic to our chair.
I just wanted to speak to the question: how do we spend the 100 million on education? So sorry when you give a hammer and a nail to a carpenter, the only way he knows is to hit the nail to solve the problem. And so when you call figures, being a chartered accountant, it sort of runs through my head. But the the 100 million, he talks about prioritization of it. One of the things that I really want to draw out is that we can spend a lot of money and not actually make an impact. So irrespective of where you put the money, if we are not outcome focused, that money will go through the drain. And the way our education system is structured to pay salaries of teachers, to pay contractors, to maintain. So it goes into a lot of interest, self-interest. But actually the outcome of the child is not at the heart of how we spend money in the education system. We talk about checking whether they are coming out, but as the latest statistics is only one in 4 child at 14 to 18 years can actually read properly. But money has gone through the system, through the government for all these kids. And people are asking for more money. The government, the union of teachers, all the way to university are saying they've not been paid, but the outcomes are actually poor. So I worked in the education system in the UK for some time, and it was where they had in the education system payment by result in the healthcare system, but also it had the payments where schools can only attract more funding based on the number of children they are in the class and based on the outcomes that they produce at the end of the year. So in our own system, there is no incentive for any school to want to bring this out of school children into school. There is no incentive because they get paid. They get paid for being in the class. They are not paid enough, but the money that is there, they only get paid for being in the class. The cleaner gets paid, the contractors get paid. But nobody is facing a risk of not having a job. So the desire for an improved outcome does not exist. So what I'm saying is, if you have that 100 million to solve the educational problem, we must attach it to the numbers of children in that school and the outcomes that happen when incentivized after verifiable outcomes. That is the only way that I think, at least one of the ways where that 100 million will go to good use. There's so much use for the 100 million, but what we want is that at the end of the day, we produce capable and future-proof and future-relevant children in our schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I do absolutely agree. We are looking at outcomes-based, evidence-based financing or funding of education. I'll get back to you shortly, but I want our patron to give us his good message here. And thank you very much, sir. Would you want to come to the podium, please? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm very sorry to come late. I didn't know I was going to have a case this morning. I was only told last night that I had to be in court this morning. So I'm very sorry, and the judge didn't come on time. It was to sit at 9 o'clock, but it didn't come until about 10:30. So I'm very sorry about it. My own intervention is very brief. Yes, I will listen to you now. I want to assume that we're almost talking about the children of the elite. And that is my own intervention. I want to speak for the poor. Like my sister said here, many of the children have never seen a computer before. So when you are talking of AI, it's meaningless. But our crisis is complicated by the fact that we have very, very highly irresponsible leaders in the country who have contempt for education. What they simply do, most members of the elite, can I try to have my child as a man? If she's pregnant, to deliver either in the UK or the US, so that those children will have some rights guaranteed by law. It's not about medical situation here alone. It is also that people want their children to have a future, which they cannot have in Nigeria. And it's unfortunate. But when we're growing up, we're proud of our country. And when I tell my children now, that some white guys were keying up in our embassies to come to Nigeria, it's unbelievable. In my secondary school, in the university, we had white teachers from all over the world. I mean, from America, India, and the rest of them, because Nigeria was attractive and they wanted to impart knowledge. So we're international students in every sense of the word. And wherever you were educated, wherever you went to school abroad, upon completing your program and having your results, you want to come by the next available flight because jobs were waiting for you here. I'm sure some young people are wondering what this man is talking about. Even as undergraduates, we had vacation jobs in Nigeria. We were paid. We were getting loans and bursary in the universities, paid on time. So I can say very reasonably that many of our people are free. Those who are in government now. So when this lady speaks in London, what's her name? Kevin. But I think she's talking arrant nonsense. She's not talking about Nigeria. Of when she went to school here. Of when she went to Federal Government College here. No. Or staff school in the University of Lagos. She's not talking about Nigeria. Because at that time, our country was better in many respects than the United Kingdom. Many respects. And to bring up children here. And that was one of the reasons why our parents wanted her to acquire basic education here before going to the West. But that was our country. We had a country. Today, as we're gathered here, 18.5, it's about 20 million now, children are out of school. This figure cannot be realistic, having regards to the mass withdrawal of children from schools in the northern part of the country because of terrorist attacks. And now, in some southern states, Oyo is going to lead. In the entire Oriri local government, you can't talk of persuading anybody now to send his or her child to school. Because you leave home in the morning. When we're growing up, there were children who would walk kilometers to get to school and walk back without any fear of abduction. Today, it is no longer the case. In 2014, following the kidnap of Chibok girls, and up till now, we haven't had all of them back. I'm sure you are aware of them. Before that, and others. But just imagine that children, some are 4, 5 years old. Some of those children in the custody of criminals in Oyo State. Some of them are only 4 or 5 years old. In the last 6 weeks, in in the sun and in the rain, in the forest. Only a miracle can get the government to have all the children back. Just imagine a 5-year-old girl, a boy, attacked by malaria. No drugs, how does it go? And think of the fact that during the rainy season, you have snakes, scorpions, and the rest of them. By the way, the general who died in Katsina was, it's actually responsible to say natural cause. Somebody has no access to his drugs. Assuming the government was even right, Katsina State government by saying the general died of natural causes. No autopsy, no postmortem. How did you come to that conclusion? But the children have since come on. The wife, who has since been released or rescued, have now said he was bitten by a snake. So you can imagine what is the fate of the children in custody. We have more children in custody in Borno State as I'm talking to you. Again, in fact, some of them are 2, 3 years. So that is the risk we are facing. And so the point I'm making is that the number of out-of-school children is increasing by the day. And you can be sure, those children of the poor that are kidnapped or abandoned, because when we travel, when we move on the highway and we see children selling granite and the rest of them, it doesn't occur to us that we are building a future of danger. Those children are going to graduate, they are going to become area boys and girls, and also threaten the children of the rich. And that is already going on. But we don't bother. We won't buy things from some of those kids on the highway without asking ourselves, should they be there? Under the law, and here I'm talking of the compulsory free basic education act of 2004 and the Child Rights Act of 2003 that has now been domesticated. The Child Rights Act has been domesticated and enacted into law by all the 36 states in Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory. The basic provision of the Child Rights Law is that every child shall be educated free of charge by the government from primary to junior secondary school. So the first 9 years. So no child is supposed to be on the road because of poverty of the parents. But some of the parents, majority of the parents of the poor, cannot even afford to give money to their children to go to school. But what the government has also done, there is also a law, Nigeria Social Investment Program Agency Act of 2023, which has made it compulsory for the federal government to give a meal a day to all schools in the primary, all children in the primary school. A meal a day. Because majority have no access to eggs and fish and the rest of them. Chicken. So the meal, 1 meal a day, shall be given to every child. It's to encourage children so that you won't say because I cannot afford to give my child food, therefore you can't go to school. But under the pretext that the school feeding program was mismanaged, the current Bola Tinubu administration cancelled it. But they haven't amended the law. So we're likely to go to court next week, Why are you not complying with your own law? Because their own children can afford more than 3 square meters a day. Secondly, again you can Google. I think in January this year, and my sister, you need to also take advantage of the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act to request figures, to request information from the government on the status of education in our country. So we wrote to them, please, can I know the state of assessment of the UBEC fund under the law? The federal government every year shall make available 2% of the consolidated revenue fund. It shall be made available to the UBEC, Universal Basic Education Commission. Each state government will or shall pay a counterpart fund to access the matching grant. By 2023, we discovered that about 250 billion was not accessed. The governors simply have no time for children. So they didn't go there to collect the money. But they didn't want to make any contribution. So we went to court. Femi Falana, Attorney General of the Federation and the 36 state government. Well, they challenged my local standard. How dare you? Are your own children affected? Why are you talking of the children of others? Of course, we told them they were not serious. That unfortunately for them, a law had been made in 2009 to allow the human rights advocates, activists, and others to defend the human rights of all Nigerians. So I then said, by virtue of Article 17 of the African Charter, everybody shall be entitled to education in our country. I didn't go to the Constitution because Section 18 of the Constitution says there shall be free education from primary to university level as and when due. Who is to determine as and when due? The ruling class. So they just ignore that, you know. And the court ruled that I had local standard, you know. But luckily between 2023 and now, January when I asked for information, I think what was left in the account is 97 billion. It's likely to be over 100 billion now, so maybe after this program, you know, I may have to. Because what I do, they give me the information, we then publish it state by state. So that compels the state government to rush to Abuja. We want to contribute, make our own contribution. So it's a way of embarrassing them. So I'm also going to find out now. I think I was speaking with the UBEC Executive Secretary 2 weeks ago. She only said there has been tremendous improvement. But I want to know the exact state of the UBEC access of UBEC water. But the point I'm making is that unless we bombard the government with information, some of the points you are making, frankly speaking, are being captured in the new educational policy. I attended a program, a committee under the current Minister of Education in Abuja, and there's also a secondary school commission now. And one of the things being discussed is the point you have made about how do we encourage teachers, how do we encourage children, how do we have enough schools, and then, you know, how do we really, not just a question of just giving money, you know, to collect more money, how can we encourage people, you know, to be responsible? So that is going on. The other point we should discuss, when you, in many rural areas in Lagos, children, and this goes for all over the country, sometimes you have 50, 75 students in a class. Some of them sit on their floor, and it's worse during the rainy season because some of the roofs are leaking. Maybe I will send you a video of children in Ayetoro town. It's in Ondo State. The schools are submerged. I think it was even a BBC program, you know, elaborating on the fate of some of the children, and I also saw in your program the Makoko incident. Makoko is in Lagos here. I'm sure you know Makoko, around Yaba, you know. At the time the government moved there, they didn't bother about the children. I think I had cause to call the government. If you must demolish, don't also think of the future of the children who are in those schools. Are you not supposed to have moved them to other schools before you can demolish? But because of public pressure, the government was forced to abandon the project. But what we're trying to do now is to see what can be done. Because what they do here, just like Morocco in there, is to take those places, some fill them, and then distribute, among the rich. I'm sure you're aware that's what they do. That's what they call, But what we're saying this time around, you have to some-fill develop for the poor. But there's no way we're going to allow you to take the place and then you some-fill it and distribute it. So they've considered, we're not going to send anybody home. Because the program is you are supposed to have a water city there and not just chase the poor out of the place. But I'm talking about the children who are affected, who've taken their sensors, and we're trying to see what can be done to get them relocated to schools that are not very far from Yabade or Makoko. So, and that goes for many of the other waterfronts, not just in Lagos, in many parts of the world. The government does. It's just to wake up. In Nigeria, in Lagos, everywhere, we are going to demolish, to develop. The fate of the children who are going to school, they are not bothered about hospitals or clinics that are in those areas. So that is part of the problem that we have with education. Let me just conclude by saying, Madam, an organization like yours can, I believe, in collaboration with others, can force the government to pay sufficient attention to our children, to education in our country. What we don't do, and this is why we only complain, Nigerians are very active in the social media. I don't know how many people bombard me every day with information, all manners of stupid things in our social media. We all complain. But we are being told by the government now, elections are not won in the social media. That's their own very caustic way of dismissing the social media. That's not where we are going to win our election. On the day of election, they will give 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 to the voters. And unfortunately, because they have weaponized poverty, people forget the fact that once you take the 20,000 or 10,000 for the next 4 years, you won't save them. But our duty is to educate our people to appreciate that these are slave masters who are promoting and profiting from your poverty. And how do we do it? Someone was asking me yesterday, they had an election in Ekiti State last Saturday, they distributed money. I said, what do you expect them to distribute? It's of my generation. I said, when we're growing up, politicians were campaigning on the basis of programs. We're going to, Awolowo in particular, in this part of the world, free education for your children, free medical treatment, full employment, agricultural revolution and the rest. So they have programs. But today, no political party can be identified with any manifesto. Whether you like this lady in the UK or not, Kenneth Badenoch, on a daily basis, she compares stammer to stammer. In the parliament, because he can't defend many of his policies. So this lady compares him to become a stammerer. Talking of stammer. Now, he had to resign because his competence was exposed. Incompetence was exposed. Here, incompetence is rewarded. Because majority of our people are not enlightened. And that is your duty. In the area of education, how can we get everybody to go to school in our society? And when you are told there's no money, the money is there. But unfortunately, we allow the fund to be diverted. I'm going to give you an assignment before the end of this week. Where, I think on the 25th, we're going to have everybody in Nigeria to have access to what goes to every state government every month and every local government. This is very important. Every month. I just discovered, and I told somebody, very soon, I'm going to publish what goes to my local government and other local governments in my state. So the fellow told the governor, I want to mention the state. This is what Mr. Falan explained. So the governor called me and said, Ebo, I want to come and see you in Lagos. I said, for what? He said, our friend told me what you have planned. I said, yes. But you don't need to see me, brother. I'm going to start. I'm not inciting anybody. It's just to let people have information. And what is the information? I said in the last 6 months, sir, about 2.8 billion naira ought to have come to my local government. And apart from payment of salaries of about 120 million, I can't see what you are doing with the money. So we are going to start. Each of the local government here will go there. We understand you collected 500 million naira last month. Can we know how much you are spending on education, health, and so on and so forth? Because what is going on now is that the people in power are profiting from our lack of knowledge and denial of information. So people say, oh, there's so much corruption in Nigeria. Why won't there be corruption? Because many things are done under the table. You are not even aware. And all of us, the budget is red. We don't bother. I'm just joining an issue with the Lagos State government now in an attempt to bring back, what do you call it every month? Monthly sanitation exercise. It's so primitive to ask me to remain indoor for 3 hours on a Saturday, last Saturday. It's so primitive. Because when we were growing up, we had an agency that was cleaning up the city. We had Wale sanitary inspector. They go from every house to the other to ensure that your environment was kept clean. But what do they do now? This year, the Lagos State government has voted 236 billion for the environment, including waste management. So we're asking them now, why are you asking me to clean the city when you are budgeted for it? So what will happen to the money? And so this is the kind of information we must find out what every state has earmarked for education in our country. And once it is not enough, we must bring out information. I've been talking to some people who are running private schools. Why don't you ask government to give you subvention? Because the law talks of every child. It does not say children in public schools. So if you are filling a gap where government cannot run schools, you have schools there, you must go to government and get convention for each of the children in your school. So that is the position of the law. And we must now begin. I'm not asking you, please don't talk of England at all. Don't talk of the United Kingdom. No. Because they say, no, we are not at that level yet. No. Talk of their own standard, our own laws, and what they went through, how they become, this guy, how they have become big men and big women in our country because they had access to education. education is key to the development of any human being or a nation. If they now deny education to the children of the poor, we have the right to question them. I think that Awolowo, one of the leaders that, and Awolowo that made the point. The children of the poor that we ignore will turn out later to constitute a threat to our own children and the elite. So I believe very strongly that we can achieve a lot if we can make information available to all of us. And if an organization like yours, madam, can also link up with the ministries of education to get information. And if you are denied information, please let us know. Because if I write to the government, I need some information. The government has 7 days to provide the information. If it is not provided, the law allows you to go to court and compel compliance with the provisions of the law. And if it is done recklessly, the denial cannot be justified. The official involved will be penalized. Are you with me? Damages will be awarded, payable by him or the institution. And of course, you can also demand for sanctions, so that such a violation of the law will not repeat itself. So, madam, I want to congratulate you, I want to commend you, I want to thank you for what you are doing. I want to pledge my own cooperation, continued cooperation. But let's link up the more so that we can cross-fertilize ideas and exchange information. There's a lot of information out there, but we can take it out. They don't want to release information, we can take out the information, using the legal system, using the court. Just this point on kidnapping of children. What has not come out is that in 2014, $30 million was raised. The campaign was headed by Robin Brown, one of the former prime ministers in the UK. And what was the purport of the money? To address insecurity in schools that are in rural areas in the country. Since then, about 145 billion has been added to the money. But we don't know what the government had done with the money. No school is safe, apart from those ones in the cities. So we also need to demand explanation as to what has happened to the Safe School Initiative. That's what they call it. Safe School Initiative. $30 million and 145 billion naira. If that money has been spent judiciously, the ongoing crisis of abduction of children in schools will not have occurred. So we have also to demand, let's ask for explanation from the government so that our schools can retrieve the money and then address the security in our schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think this deserves a really round of applause. Thank you very much for this educative session. Thank you for the open invitation. We will be engaging with you. Advocacy is one of the pillars in which we're building on. And this has been very, very important. Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So we're in the middle of our dialogue. So we should continue again.
Yeah, I think the other comments that we can just continue on. Yeah.
So one last question, because I'm looking at the time. We're meant to, because although we started late, but so one last question. Sorry, were you still going to? You had a.
You can ask the last question.
So I'm just trying to think. I have so many questions here. So I'm going to start this question. Are current interventions reaching sufficient scale? I mean, the important interventions emerging from government and NGOs. If we even look at the recent Education Outcomes Fund by the Lagos State government, where they committed But what is working? What should not working anymore? What should we stop scaling? What should stop? So our current interventions through government, private sector, CSR like corporations, civil societies and NGOs like IE Foundation. What are we doing? Is it sufficient?
Sorry? I'm just going to quickly respond to that. How are these things measured? How are they monitored? So how do people know whether it's working or not?
Let's start with picking an intervention. How, yeah.
I think what I'm trying to say, that question is very
quite
broad.
Yes.
Because first you have to define what exactly that means and how they're being monitored and how the information is being cascaded. So the general public would not know because how? I mean, Mr. Falana was just saying, I don't know how we address him. Because I know he's a very, I'm so sorry, sir, if I didn't get the title right. But the point I'm making is we're talking about providing.
Yes, your title.
No, simply Mr.
Okay, sir. All right. Just don't want to get it wrong. So he was talking about providing information, making information available, which is very critical because it's when you have information that you can actually, it brings illumination. Basically, people now know, right? What you do with it is another matter, but at least you know. So your question is, how do we know?
Okay, so first of all, in the room we're at, we're not general public per se, we're stakeholders in this particular education ecosystem.
Okay.
So there's some.
It's just to do a letter, simple. We want to know every month what you are giving. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The law said they must provide information.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say to you is that question is
the intervention
is a bit yeah, because how do we know, unless there are specific people here that work within organizations that can say we know. And
so the intervention we're talking about now is specifically for out of school children. What is being done currently across board by those that of which this room is full of people that have that sort of knowledge. So out of school children, the interventions that are ongoing through government, and I gave an example that the LEAF education outcome that just recently concluded a few months ago. If you look at also corporate CSRs, we know there's some, look at First Bank, they have a major, they're one of their core pillars, education, and they spend a lot across board on it. But is that enough? We have civil society, we have Teach for Nigeria here, we have an ESG here. I know that, talking about out of school children, the interventions that they're advocating for, the policies that they want building, is it enough? So that's what we're asking from each of and every one of those sectors in their addresses. So let me start with. She has an answer. Okay. So I think sometimes let's say Mubia so people know.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rita Rima Barik, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Coordinator with SOS Children's Villages Nigeria. And at the SOS Children's Villages, what we do essentially, we do so many things, but the core of what we do is alternative care and family strengthening. And we've been in Nigeria for the past 50 years, and what we've been doing and has been working for us is to work with community structures. Because we realize that when we talk about education, most of the time we focus on the infrastructure, the buildings and all of that, but when the care systems around education fail, children cannot actually access school. So we look at the care education nexus where we strengthen the protection systems that allow children to access education. So for example, we strengthen families. So we go to communities, we identify families that do not have any form of support. So our target group is children without parental care or at risk of losing parental care, who are also part of out-of-school children, but mainly for those that are in communities where they don't have parents or they don't have caregivers that can support them. So yeah, family strengthening is one of the things that we do, and we realize that it helps because when you strengthen the family, they can be able to support children and even provide them with the right, the right support that they can access, either public schools or family, or public schools or any other form of education, because we believe that education itself is a form of protection when you look at it. Now, when it's not working well, I think, or what we can do more, I think we need to have better coordination, because I think everybody here has already said it. No one, we don't need to exist in silos. We need to continue to collaborate. We need to be able to have access to information. Thankfully, Daisy has already spoke about that, and that was really an opener for us. And we can be able to start asking questions, because data informed us. Even when we don't have the right data, we won't be able to do the right intervention and know where the problems exist. So we need to have, we need to work better, like coordinated effort. We need to be able to, share information and all of that. And foundation, you need to also collaborate with other partners as well. We have, Nigeria has like different kind of social sector. We have the CSOs forums. We have the Child Protection Network. We have technical working groups across different agencies that we can work together and draft policy change, and even do, better advocacy that can, drive changes and all of that. So yeah, that's the only point I want to add from our programming perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So better coordination, stop working in silos. I think that's a recurring theme here. So please, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for coming a bit late. My name is Malali Adeli. I'm the CEO at Teach for Nigeria. We don't purely work with out-of-school children. We actually work with in children who are already in school, but as we know, there are many children who are in school that are learning as well. Our model is simple. We recruit, we train, and we place fellows. We call them fellows in our public schools. We work with the state government, so we place them in primary and secondary schools across the country. So we work mostly, we have to work with SUBEB and TESCOM to be able to place our fellows in the classrooms. We've been doing that now for almost 10 years. We'll be 10 come February. And we have placed almost 3,000 fellows across 4 states in the country and reached, over 500 children directly. But you know what? While I say all of that, it's not even worthy of applauding in any way, because it's almost like a drop in the ocean. The work that we have done, we had an independent assessment that was done by the RAND Corporation, which showed that learners in classrooms where there was a Teach for Nigeria fellow, where their literacy was 2 to 5 times better than those that were not in a Teach for Nigeria fellows classroom. So we have seen those gains, and we are seeing the work that we're allowing these fellows do in the classrooms. Fortunately for us, we do have some good partnerships with Lagos State, Ogun State government today, where we place a certain number of fellows annually, even though I don't think it's enough, because when you think that there are schools that has 1 teacher to 130 learners, that's nowhere near global standard. We've seen children in primary 5 who can't read a simple comprehension, but year on year they get moved on to a new class. So the problem is compounding. It's not one size fits all. We believe that when we invest in teachers as leaders, that's when we begin to see the shift. A lot of the investment in education is mostly in infrastructure. So when I say infrastructure, building, making a building conducive, but there's no point having a fancy building and I'm not learning anything. I visited the Tolu complex a couple of days ago. I don't know if anyone's ever visited the Tolu complex. Renovation's been done, or regeneration as the work is, and that's great. That's a good start. But again, when you ask what do you really need, they tell you they need teachers, because they just don't have enough teachers. The teachers the good ones have moved on, have been absorbed by countries in the Western world. The ones that can, they've jackpot. The ones that can have jackpot. The ones that are here don't feel like they're competent enough to actually do the work. Some of them don't actually really want to do the work. They're there as teachers because they couldn't find anything else to do, and it's a means to an end. So I think when we think about education, and even with out of school, so I'm very aware of the LEAF and the EOF, and I think it's a great initiative. But I think what we must demand for is how do we ensure we need more data. To Mr. Falano's point, is all these initiatives that are being done, where is the evidence to suggest that they are actually providing the outcomes that we want to see? This out of school children numbers, and every time I'm like, it moves from 10 million to 15 million to 18 million, some places are saying 20 million. It's not coming down. Despite all the initiatives that are being done, there is a bigger problem that we are not addressing. And I dare say that the number is probably a lot more than that, because there are many children that are unaccounted for. You talked about Makokosa. I'm sure that, if we speak to Larry, she'll tell you about all the undocumented, unaccounted children in various communities as well. So what do I think we need to do? I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think that I cannot overemphasize the collaboration. I know we've said that over and over. We're all working in silos, and we come to dialogues and convenings like this. We share all the amazing work that we're all doing individually, and I feel like we all walk away and just continue to do our work individually. How do we truly create an opportunity where we can all work together, share best practices, share data with one another? What's working here? I mean, for instance, Teach for Nigeria, our vision is to be across the country, but I cannot go across the country. It's expensive. There's many things that are not. But I know that I have a program.
Also risky.
Even to the states that aren't risky, it's just, when you think about the funding of it, the sustainability. But I know that I have a model that works, and I know there's many people that know they have a model that works. So for us, we are looking for who is that person in Kano, in Enugu, in Anambra, who's saying, I want to do this model. We are willing to share with you everything that we have, everything that we know, to enable you to be able to run this exact program the way that, the lessons that we have learned in your own context, in your own community. And I think we just need a lot more of that, of a lot more sharing, a lot more opportunities to come together. I like what you said, Sarah, about us challenging the government and just saying, what are you spending this money on? Part of the questions that we get, or the pushback we get sometimes when we speak to the government, is they don't have enough money to hire more teachers. But if there's a fund somewhere, what's happening with that? So I do think that it's not all doom and gloom. I do think that there's hope. But I do think we need to seriously move from talking about working together to actually working together, and the sharing of best practice. Let's see how the Education Outcomes Fund pans out. I think that has created a bit of collaboration, because it's now forced various organizations that may not otherwise have worked together to come together and work together. And I'm hopeful that if that kind of works out, maybe this is the beginning of something. But yeah.
Thank you.
Just information, not part of it. Just information.
Okay.
There is now the Almagiri and Out of School Children Commission, set up by the federal government. So you also need to link up, because most people are not aware of that commission. So not much is going on. The last time I found out, we said we have some have done some things in Kaduna and Oyo states. I said, out of 36 states, So we need to find out what they're doing. Then I don't know whether you discussed this. Okay, no, before that. If you stumbled on very terrible schools, dilapidated buildings, please just find a way of taking the photograph and send to us. Even circulate it in the social media. That gets the government to wake up. But they want to pretend that everything's okay. If you send it across to Punch newspaper, you can even put it on the front page. So we need to capture those terrible schools, or where children undergo education under very terrible conditions. The last one is on social media for children. In the West now, surprisingly, Western countries are ahead of us. Australia, Spain, France, even UK, they are now talking of banning outright access to social media for children under 15, under 16. My own people have asked me, I said, well, when our colonial master does it, that's the UK, You may wake up, but I think educational organizations that are promoting education in the country can also start this campaign so that, because we all know the danger, of exposing children to the social media too early, and that is what Western countries have found out, and they are imposing a ban, and it is working, and they can relate to work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think this has been a very, very productive session. We have one last question. One last statement.
Go ahead, go ahead, I'll just run this.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Azaz Agatise. I'm a program coordinator at Street to School. So what we do is we actually bring out of school children into the classroom. We run a tuition-free school. We run 2 tuition-free schools. We have one at Tipaja. We have a tuition-free school at Tipaja and another one in Kwara State. So I think for me, the point I want to mention is discontinuity in the system.
partnerships. We can only do it together better than if we do it alone. But is there data on who is even intervening in this space? So really and truly, what's happened today is we convened everybody and we've given ourselves more work. Edie is going to be deluged with what comes next. And I think that's very, very important to, it's a very important note to take away. What comes afterwards? We didn't want it to be a talk shop. If we wanted it to be a talk shop, we would have invited 200 people and it would have got lost in some panel discussion or the other. We wanted it to be an intimate discussion of people who are exceedingly passionate about what we want to achieve for our country. It is not by accident that you're in this room. It's not by accident that we're all trying to seek solutions, and we are definitely hearing you. I love taking notes, and I know that the Secretariat is already taking notes, but I've taken some of my own, and it's given us homework. And as I said, it's homework we're delighted to have. Yes, there's going to be pressure on you, ED, and we're all going to be on this. And I told the Secretariat as well, all the people who have worked hard together to make this event happen. And we hear you, and we are definitely going to take this forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just to add, I don't know if anybody knows, but I know that the Office of Statistics, or not the statistics, but the federal government for the first time actually put NGOs into the GDP. They count into other, it's called under other, to show you how it's actually grown in Nigeria. But of course, there's also impact on sea. Because what Blair didn't mention was that it's still growing, the number of school children is still growing. And yet at the same time, the quality of interventions too are growing. So if you wanted to, if you had some.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to just say something to what she was asking. In terms of like, if someone wants to support, let's say, an orphanage or a child-based organization, so the federal ministry and also the state ministry of women affairs, they are like the coordination agency for anything that has to do with children. So ideally, they're supposed to have database that has all the number of orphanage homes, all the number of facilities or institutions that provide for children and all of that. They have their database, but well, it's not a it's not a standard database, but that is a starting point. They do have this information. And as you know, in Nigeria, we don't have like only one type of facility. We have private-owned facilities. We have church, religious or faith-based facilities. We also have organizations. Like for us as SOS Children's Villages, we used to have like homes. We'll call them villages. And what we do is we receive referral of children who are maybe abandoned or children that don't have any form of support in the community, and we put them in our facilities through referral either from federal ministry, NAPTIP, or other government agencies, and we care for them throughout their life. We try to trace their families so that they go back, because our focus has always been like children to grow in a family, even though right now we don't admit children because we believe that institutionalizing children is not good for them, because there are studies around that. So, but there are statistics. There are other NGOs that are focused on data. I know DEB, they have like comprehensive data around children and homes and all of that. They work across different states. They can also provide you with statistics, and we also have so many faith-based organizations and institutions as well. So, but another thing that I also wanted to add in all of this, and I forgot to add, is apart from the fact that what works for us is we work with communities and we strengthen communities. Because if you just respond and take a child and the family is not empowered, there will be a level where you can no longer support that child. So what happens to that child? He will go back to where he was coming from. So, but if the family is strengthened, they can continue to provide for that child and even other children that will come out of that family. And another thing is we co-design our programs. You can go to community and say, okay, we want to give you this and that, but if you don't carry them along, if you don't co-design it with them, you end up giving them what they don't need. For us, we don't even call programs as beneficiaries, we call them program participants, because we believe that both of us are doing it together, so that it doesn't create that hierarchy of, okay, I am giving you money and then charity. Yeah, so we call them a program participant because we design the programs together, and we also support us in ensuring that we provide solutions in our interventions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, thank you to everyone that has spoken. I just want to take on the point about breaking out of our silos. There's a very high possibility that once we exit this room, we are going back to our silos, and all what has been said, is going to be points in our head. Is it possible for the many people have spoken? The Dangote representative is about leaving. There was a lady that spoke. I heard something about teachers.
Teach for Nigeria.
Yeah, Teach for Nigeria. Okay. I know she said something about free school or something like that. Yeah, please, can we do like a list of these organizations, put it on the slide so that we can snap, then we can follow up individually as time would permit.
There will be a post-event communique.
Oh, okay.
Include all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that should help you.
Okay, so because I don't want to go back to my own silo, I want to start breaking out of my silo from now.
What to do as a foundation now that that's the next step. Convening is the beginning of what we hope will be multiple collaborations.
Thank God that this
everybody involved, every word that's been said here will be captured in some way. So it's not a verbatim report, but we will capture the totality of the sentiment here for solutions.
I just need something to fall back on and follow on.
100%, 100%. Even what you've said now and my response has been captured for posterity.
Thank you. No, absolutely, because as you mentioned, it's the first in a series of events. We have to build up on this, consolidate it. So, yeah, it will definitely come in the process. So, I think we're nearing the end of the program, but just before we go, we have a little presentation for you. One of the things you need to do to grow is also develop capacity, develop skills to make sure that we're more efficient. So we recently invested in a new portal, more interactive portal. So we just want to talk a little bit about it and how it's helping us as an organization. So Godwin, it's after that, then we'll have the sponsors address, and then we'll close. So Godwin, please.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Godwin Onoja. I'm website developer at IA Foundation. We built a new secure digital platform where people can actually, partner with us as donors. We can manage beneficiaries, volunteers, partners, schools, on that single platform system. ia-foundation.org is the URL, so you could browse it on your phones or your devices. Next slide. Okay, our slides are not pulling on right now. Over here, what is the IA Foundation portal? What's our new website? It's simply a unified portal for managing, registrations of the different stakeholders that we have, be they partners, donors, beneficiaries, sponsors. I'm actually on slide 2. You can use the arrow. You can make it full screen. Double click. Alright, no, previous slide, sorry. Slide 2. Yeah, our mission is to reduce the number of out-of-school children. That's IA Foundation. We want to increase access to quality education for across Nigeria and eventually Africa. We are powered by transparency, accountability, and technology. Our idea is to ensure that every child, especially the out-of-school children, have access to quality education, and that's one of the objectives that our portal seeks to, our new portal, newly designed portal seeks to meet. Benefits for donors and beneficiaries. As a donor, what do you stand to benefit from partnering with IA Foundation? We provide a platform for you to, give transparently. You can can actually track, the child that you're actually sponsoring via our portal. You can access children to sponsor, children that are out of school that we have on our platform to sponsor. You can get information about the project. You can donate online using Flutterwave if you're in Nigeria. If you're outside of Nigeria, you can use PayPal. And then we have metrics, data that we can actually use to measure the impact of your donations. We regularly provide reports, for accountability and governance. For beneficiaries, what are the benefits of what we do at IE Foundation for beneficiaries and the advantage that our platform provides? Beneficiaries can simply register on the portal and they get quicker access to sponsorship opportunities if they register via our portal. We provide educational support, regularly checking on the children to ensure that what we're spending money on is actually being done. Our idea is to increase visibility to potential sponsors for these beneficiaries and improve communication. This platform seeks to put together all the stakeholders, provide an interface for stakeholders. So all the stakeholders that partner with us, the donors, the beneficiaries, and all. So the key features, for each stakeholder, for donors can register and sponsor a child. They can make project-based donations via our payment channels and track your donations. For beneficiaries, they get support, they get access to opportunities, educational opportunities. For partners, you can partner with us, you can volunteer. We have a platform for people to volunteer under IE Foundation. Administrators, you can actually provide we can actually provide you reports and metrics regarding your donations that you've been making to IE Foundation. So we do a lot of good record keeping. How does the portal work? Number one, you register as a stakeholder, whether you're a beneficiary or a donor, you get to register, submit your information, we review it, and then we approve your account, we engage you, and then you begin to measure your impact in what we do. So as I said earlier, step by step, you register, submit your details, we review at the back end, we engage you, via emails, and you can begin to make impact on the work that we do. Why is this portal important? Why does it matter? We're solving some challenges. We have a challenge of limited educational outreach in Nigeria right now. We're trying to solve that with our portal. There's a disconnect between donors and beneficiaries. We're trying to solve that right now. Manual, administration and reporting, still goes on. A lot of bookkeeping, but we're trying to solve that digitally using our portal. And our vision is, to increase digital sponsorship, with a swipe of your, with a transfer or with your card from wherever you are in the world, you can actually donate. You don't have to get to our office before you donate. We can actually scale this, and the impact is actually real time because every now and then we are picking up new children, to sponsor. And our goal is to improve donor confidence. We're experiencing donor apathy in Nigeria right now, where people no longer want to donate because they are not really sure what the money is being used for, or if the money is actually going to the right channels. But with IE Foundation, you have the confidence as a donor that your money is going to the intended use. So our goal is to be Africa's #1 leading educational impact platform, especially for out of school children. And that is the reason for this unified platform that we have built. The workflows, and our goal is to get into more countries as our reach in Nigeria grows as well. We'd like you to join us and partner with us, use our new portal, iafoundation.org, ia-foundation.org. You can access it on your devices, and you can pick up a child to sponsor, make a donation, sign up as a stakeholder, and we'll be very happy to have you. I'll be happy to take your questions if you have any. But in the absence of any questions, thank you very much for your time.
don't know whether they're thinking about what it's
Sorry everyone, please we're having a technical issue. The eating will join us shortly, please. While we are working on the... Mr. Godwin, is it working? Is it working?
Hey, we finished your... I keep on forgetting to put it on. It's on.
Oh, okay. Yes.
You said they're not speaking.
They are not speaking. They just want us to show. You can scan to know.
So when she said close your remarks, I was looking around, but Che has already given the opening remarks. Who else is here to represent the board? So I guess it falls on me. But you know, to say again, to take us back to why you know, the leadership of the foundation felt this was an important initiative is something that's been answered by almost every contribution here. Collaboration, collaboration, and more collaboration. So it would have been great to have the Office of the SDG, but as we know, the governor called them, because SDG 17 actually says collaboration and partnerships for progress. And with that, bearing that in mind, it's always, if that's our sort of lodestar, then everybody finds it easier to work together. So that was the rationale behind convening everybody. So what are the takeaways? One is your passion to come here and convene in the first place. So it's not like we invited people and they declined. Two is the great feedback that we've had from every single person, in the room. And I've also been around, each and everybody. There's been really, really positive feedback from everybody. And it's great to see. And, we want to thank you for your passion and the passion for change that we all have that's making us all be part of this. So as I mentioned earlier, we will go away. We have, we have extensive notes. There's going to be a post-event communique because it doesn't stop here. It starts here, and continues. We don't want to be saying the same thing this time next year. So this time next year, we're coming back to potentially give you a progress report. That look where we were last year. Despite all the, we know the 20 million number, we know the doom and gloom, but we're not sitting down, we're not sitting back. We're going to take all these great ideas and we're going to progress the conversation. So beyond the conversation, into action, and those commitments, some of which we have today. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Thank you for your great contributions, each and every one of you. You all have so many other things you could be doing on a Tuesday morning. So we are very grateful for that. We can't do it alone. We continue to progress this. We continue to be driven by collective passion for change, for our country. I have my Nigeria pin that I wear to all my external functions. So when I despair, it's just to remind me that truly we can be the great nation with all of us. 200+ million people is not a joke. We can't just let it slide and nothing happens. And I see that we're all doing something. And let's, I urge us to continue to do that, but on behalf of the board both here and in the UK, and everybody that's been part of this, I want to say a very big thank you. And again, the work doesn't stop here. It continues, the progress continues. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. And see you next year with a progress report.
Thank you. Thank you. So we can all network now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So let's. Okay. Thank you very much. Really, really excellent conversation. And we will be in touch.
Thank you for having us. We look forward to hopefully this making sense. Is this a good place?
No, ma.
Project us forward.